Hey guys, this is Charles from worshipguitarskills.com, and today we're doing something a little bit differently. We're answering some members' questions. We've got a Facebook group where I'm interacting with everyone throughout the week, answering questions and doing some fun stuff. If you want a link to that, it's in the description box below. So today's question comes from a new member called Forrest Charles, and he wrote the one thing he'd like to improve most in his playing is he wants to improve his ear training. He knows for a fact that he can be decent. If he can be a decent player, he'll become eons better, and he's gained some ability to pick progressions via the number system, but that's it. So essentially, Forrest is asking about how do you develop your ear, and that is such a crucial part of being a good worship guitarist, because a guy who can hear fast is going to get a lot further in his playing and be able to make a greater impact than a guy who can play fast. So the guitar community puts a lot of focus on playing fast, having a lot of chops and licks and stuff, but really in a worship scenario, you're going to be way more served if you develop your ear. So where do you start? Because it's such a wide topic and there's so many things that you can do as it relates to developing your ear. Well, in this video, I'd like to give you a couple of pointers for things that can get you started on this journey of developing your ear. And then if you guys like me to go in deeper and kind of zoom in and have more of a microscopic kind of look at some of the concepts we want to talk about today, just leave your comments and suggestions in the description box, not the description box, the comments area, and then I'll be able to read those and we can do a whole series on developing your ear. So one of the first things I think is very, very important when you start developing your ear is to look at the difference between the different kinds of chord quality. So a major chord, for example, is going to sound very different to a minor chord. Those are the two big kind of sounds that you have at your disposal. The major, happy, bright sound, and the minor, which is more the dark and sad kind of sound. So those are very obvious in the way that they're different, right? Major, minor. But then you also get something that's called a power chord, for example. And that doesn't have that third. This is where some little bit of music theory knowledge comes in handy, because there's no third present. That chord is neither major or minor. Now what we can also do is we can suspend that third, which means we can, instead of playing an A like this, we can play an A sus4. So you can actually hear that suspension right there. Kind of a nice modern sound. You also get what's known as that's a sus4. Of course, you get a sus2 where we suspend the third with the second degree. A lot more open sounding chord, right? So now we've got a major, a sus4, a sus2, and a major, and a minor. Already now you can see how your palette grows as it relates to the different chord qualities. Now, what's also really cool is when you start checking out inversions. So for example, this will be a G chord with G as my bass note, my root note. But I can also play G over B. So when I play C, G over B to A minor, I have this really cool descending bass line. So C, G over B, A minor. Instead of C to G to A minor. So this sounds a lot smoother than, say, right, these are just little minor things, but once you start paying attention to it, your ear will start to hear, all right, great, there was the use of an inversion, right, where we played a chord with a root note that wasn't the lowest note within that chord, which means another chord tone within that chord, we use that to be the lowest note. All right, so those are inversions, very important for you to get a good handle on inversions. Now, of course, I can play a G over B like this. I can also play a G over D like this. So these are all cool ways in which you can just get a smoother bass movement going, because you can use other chord tones that exist within the chord as the lowest note. Now, sometimes we get what's known as a slash chord, and all these chords I mentioned to you today They are slash chords. It's G over B. That slash, right, forward slash, that is what tells you that you have to play a different low note with that chord. But you also get chords where the slash note is not the note you're playing the chord over. It's not part of the actual chord. So for example, here's a G over A. So that's a really, if you hear that sound, and if you train your ear, it's automatically going to know, okay, great, that is a G over A. Or if you want to use the Nashville kind of approach, let's just say that was a 1 chord, that'll be 1 over 2. And all these chords, they are quite different in the sense that I'm just using different root notes within that chord. All right, so make sure you check out the slash chords, also known as inversions, very helpful. And then after that, we can start adding in the 7th degree of a chord. Now, there's different qualities of 7th chords. So for example, this will just be a straightforward G. Here's a G dominant 7th. Very distinct sound. Here's a G major 7th. Kind of has a sophisticated jazzy sound. Here's a dominant 7th again with a different voicing. Here's a minor 7th. Here's a minor 7 flat 5. So as you can hear, these chords now have a little bit more sophistication, because instead of just containing 3 notes that you would have with triads, which is major and minor chords, we're actually adding in a 4th note just to up the ante a little bit. So that is the first place that I would start, is check out your difference between major and minor. You want to check out sus chords, sus 4 and sus 2. You want to check out slash chords, start hearing the inversions. Then check out the 7th chords, major 7th, minor 7th, dominant 7th, and minor 7 flat 5. That one doesn't get used as much in modern worship, but when you start adding some of the 4 voice chords, it is quite a vibe to add that to your playing. Now, once you start getting a good handle on your chord types, what I would recommend is start checking out intervals. So if you take a major scale, an interval is the distance between 2 notes. So a major second is going to sound like that. A major third, major fourth, or perfect fourth rather, a perfect fifth, major sixth, major 7th, and an octave. Once your ear can tell the difference between these intervals, you'll be able to pick it up much faster when it comes to hearing a melody. Because like if you hear a melody that sounds similar to Happy Birthday, that's a major second. Or if you hear the Star Wars theme, that's going to be a perfect fifth. You hear that sound. And if you start making these connections between what does a major third sound like, a major fourth, a perfect fifth, a perfect fourth rather, then that's going to start really opening your ear up to things. And then hearing the difference between a major third and a minor third, a perfect fourth and an augmented fourth, a major 6, a minor 6, a major 7th, a minor 7th. You see, by taking the major scale and then looking at what the intervals are that's contained within that major scale, and I can alter them like I just did, instead of a major 6, a minor 6, etc. Now your ear starts to hear those differences between those different notes. And then when you hear a progression, then you can actually hear, well, that's a 1, 4, 5. Because you can actually tell the difference between the intervals. Or if you hear a chord quality, you can hear, well, that chord has a 6th in it, for example. And this is just the world of ear training. You start nice and simple with the chord qualities, check out your intervals, then you want to start checking out chord progressions, tell the difference between a 1-4-5 progression as opposed to a 1-5-4. Start adding in some minor chords, looking at the reharmonization, chord substitution. It's a very big world for sure as it relates to ear training, but what I've given you in this video is a nice, simple approach to figuring out and to training your ear as it relates to what's going on in a musical sense. All right, Forrest, so hopefully that's been helpful for you, just to kind of nudge you in the right direction where you need to start looking and paying some attention to as it relates to developing your ear, because if you can hear well, you are definitely going to improve your playing in a massive way like you suggested in your question. So for any of you guys that want to hear me talk more about ear training and give you some practical examples and stuff, leave a comment in the comment section below, and then we will go ahead and create a whole new ear training series. And if you'd like to join us in our Facebook group where we've got more back and forth conversation going, check out the link in the description box. All right, guys, that's all for today, and I'll see you next time.